Hello, I'm Brian Fox. Welcome to I Hate Rock Music. And one of the reasons I don't hate rock music in a moment where I truly love rock music is a band like US Maple. They've got a higher profile than a lot of bands that I talk about, and of course they're more recent. But they're one of my very favorite bands of all time, and I know that they have a really diehard following and a completely unique band, and just completely right up my alley with their aesthetics. So the story goes back to the early 90s. There was a Chicago aggro punk band called Shorty from 1991 to 1994, put out a couple of records, and a little twisted, but more in line with a lot of the aggro math rock bands, punk bands, like bands on Amphetamine Reptile and the like of that era. And then there was another band called the Mercury Players that put out one 7-inch that were pretty pretty gnarly and pretty twisted. I really like their record as well. But these guys met each other. Um, Todd Rittman and the drummer Adam Vita were from the Mercury Players, and then Al Johnson and Mark Shippey from Shorty uh, crossed paths, got together, and hatched plans for this new band called U.S. Maple. U.S. Maple was around from 1995 to 2007 and consisted of Al Johnson on vocals, Mark Shipping and Todd Rittman on guitars, and then original drummer Pat Sampson. And then they switched over to Adam Vita. And really staggering band. They put out quite a few records for that kind of band. 245s won the song Stuck. They had a second 45 called The Wanderer, which is a virtually unrecognizable version of the Dion and the Belmonts song. And then 5 LPs. And the first one is Long Hair in Three Stages, which and Sang Fat Editor was their second one. Both of those were produced by Jim O'Rourke, which was very fitting. And at that time, they were on Skin Graft, and then they signed up with Drag City after that and released 3 more LPs: Talker, Acre Thrills, and Purple on Time. And Talker is considered maybe their darkest record. That one was produced by Michael Gira from the Swans, so it makes sense they would get a little dark at that point. And they did some great covers along with The Wanderer by Dion and the Belmonts. They also did a rousing version of AC/DC Sin City. And Purple on Time has a version of Dylan's Lay Lady Lay that really has to be heard to be believed. But their sound has had a lot of descriptions. I kind of found some sort of affinity with Captain Beefheart, just in the sense that their rhythms were so spastic. There's a lot of really angular, twisted guitar work, and a very unique vocalist, and so there's some affinity to Beefheart there, and that kind of attracted me, especially the first album, Long Hair in Three Stages. Long Hair in Three Stages, when it first came out, came in a limited, heavy aluminum cover, and that was later re-released again with a limited edition heavy aluminum cover, which is really fitting of the band, I think. But they're just really jarring guitar and a lot of noodling and a lot of shards. And so 1 minute you hear a lot of plinking and plunking on the guitar and some erratic rhythms, and then they'll slam into some serious big chords. And so they created a lot of drama. And there's a deconstructionist uh, angle to their music that's really appealing to me. Sometimes it barely seems like it's holding together before they all lock up and present some pretty dramatic moments. And like I say, the drumming was pretty spastic and erratic, and has a lot of affinity to Beefheart for my ears. And then Al Johnson, you got to hear his vocals to be believed. There's something smarmy about him, and a lot of wheezing, chortling, and howls. And that's the only way you could sing to this music. So they were really a perfect combo. And I couldn't recommend them enough. I just totally love them. And they also have some participation in the Lake of Dracula band, and kind of an all-star underground band in Chicago. And Todd Rittman also had a one-time band called Singer, and then participated with another stunning band called Cheer Accident. I'll be doing a separate video on them. But the members, after they split up in 2007, Todd Rittman has been in a band for the last several years called Dead Rider, and they're a really great band, have a really distinctive sound, and Rittman's vocals are perfect. There's some obvious influence from his former bandmate Al Johnson, but they have some elements of U.S. Maple, but a lot more controlled. And then the drummer Pat Sampson and the other guitar player Mark Shipping went into a band called Miracle Condition, and they're a lot more conventional. There's some moments where you can see that the certain elements of U.S. Maple creep in, but for the most part, very conventional vocals, very conventional guitar parts, but pretty cool band, well worth hearing. They have a lot of dramatic moments too, with some great instrumentals, and then some really peculiar and beguiling, more standard rock elements. But I just think they're one of the greatest bands ever. Their diehard followings thinks they're one of the great bands of all time, and I just think they're one of my favorite bands, certainly the last 30 years. And I was lucky enough to see them twice. I saw them once at the Off Ramp here in Seattle. Did an all-nighter doing shots of tequila and vodka well into 2 a.m. in the morning after working a 12-hour day. So it was a harrowing night, but well worth it. But the best time I saw them was at Seattle Showbox, and they opened for Pavement, and the Pavement audience couldn't have hated U.S. Maple more. Seldom have I seen so much stuff thrown at the stage, but they're absolutely defiant. Rittman got up to the edge of the stage in his white suit and his big scarf and turned his back to the audience and just showed his ass to everyone in the audience. So they took it in stride, and so it was a magnificent moment for me. But their body language, seeing them live, was great too, and that just added to what a cool band they are. The drummer almost seemed scared of his drum kit. He would play some notes and then kind of back off and then sneak up on his drum kit and chime in with the band again. And Mark Shippey also had some really strange ways of being on stage. A couple tunes he would just put the guitar neck straight to the ground and hunch over and just play his guitar in that stance for a few minutes. But boy, they were great live. And it's also weird because there's obviously only about 10 or 15 people there, including me, that were there to see U.S. Maple. And I actually had some guys come up to me and want to beat me up for enjoying U.S. Maple. They hated the band so much. And I can understand that. For the Pavement audience, a band like U.S. Maple would be very jarring. But they're intricate and spastic and disjointed and angular, dramatic, two guitar interplay, and the spastic drumming, and then Al Johnson just wheezing and chortling and howling over the top of it, barely decipherable what he was singing a lot of times, but just magnificent. And so if you dive into their records, the first one's probably the most straightforward. They get a little more abstract as you go along, and then by the time they release their last album, Purple on Time, it's almost a U.S. Maple pop record. It's still pretty fucked up and weird, and the cover of Lay Lady Lay is on there. But it's definitely a lot more tuneful and accessible, and slightly more conventional than their other records, but still just stunning. So there you go. U.S. Maple, one of the greatest bands ever. Highly recommend them. If you like things a little disjointed and weird and angular and spastic and just completely eccentric and unique, you need to check them out. I'll put a link below. And they're also one of the better known bands that I've done videos on, and I'd like to do more videos about bands that people know about a little bit more. But my bread and butter, of course, is going to be bands that hardly anyone's ever heard of, particularly in the late 60s, early 70s era. But U.S. Maple's smack dab there in the 1995 to 2000 zone, and they were kings. And so go get them. I'm Brian Fox. Thanks for watching I Hate Rock Music.